Hello geometry and welcome to week 7. We're going back to some traditional styles here. So we have a video, I'm going to be doing some instruction, and the good news is this isn't going to be an ed puzzle or anything too crazy. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me, because remember, this whole week is going to be asynchronous. Now, I did include a link to remind you guys on how attendance works, so please look at that to make sure you aren't surprised by any absences that pop up. Now, let's go ahead and start talking about how we multiply polynomials. To do that, I'm actually going to be using the practice itself, and I'll be working through those problems to help you guys understand what's happening and why it's happening. So for question 1 here, we're asked to find the product, because guess what? We're multiplying polynomials, and product means multiplication. Now, I do want to talk about some pieces here about what a polynomial is. So if you think back to your algebra days, a polynomial is anything of the form that has an x or an x squared or an x cubed in it. And so what that means is we have these variables, and they're going to either be added or subtracted together. So you have the equation essentially. Oh, sorry, I didn't have my writing utensil. There we go. So you have the function, essentially the equation of f of x equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. And that probably looks familiar because of the fact it's a quadratic, and a quadratic is a type of polynomial. We call that specifically a trinomial. And why is it called a trinomial? Because it has 3 terms. And remember, a term is anything that's added or subtracted. And so if we end up having f of x is equal to mx plus b, well, I'm sure that looks familiar as well. Really, this is just the equation of a line where I replaced f of x with y, right? And so this right here is a binomial. Why? Because it has 2. And what we have here, 5x and negative 3x, are each monomials. And so, swoop. Why? Because that prefix means 1. And so we have a monomial multiplied by a monomial and a polynomial. To come back to that word here, the poly just means many or number. And so it's kind of the umbrella word, the big word to say that we have all of our trinomials, binomials, monomials, and, up with 4 terms, 5 terms, 6 terms, all being added together. And we're talking about multiplying those polynomials together. So we have a monomial times a monomial. And the good news is, because of the fact that they're just regular expressions, they don't have any addition or subtraction in them, we're just multiplying them, and we don't need to worry about the parentheses to do that multiplication. And so really what we're saying is that we have 5x multiplied by negative 3x. And just as a reminder, everywhere you do not see a symbol also represents multiplication. So we could really expand this and say that we have 5 times x times negative 3 times x. And of course, just multiplying those together, 5 times negative 3 is negative 15, and x times x is x squared. And that is why negative 15x squared is the answer we're looking for here. And so the key pieces about this is that we didn't need the parentheses because there was no addition or subtraction. It was only multiplication, so we could rewrite that multiplication without the parentheses with the multiplication sign, and then further rewrite our multiplication by actually including those symbols to help clarify that we were doing 5 times negative 3 to get negative 15, and x times x to get x squared. Awesome. Let's take a look at question 2. So here on question 2, now we have a monomial multiplied by a binomial. And see that plus sign right there? That means we're not just going to be able to drop our parentheses and write this as multiplication. We'll actually have to distribute. Why? because multiplication is repeated addition, and this negative 2a is being multiplied by both 6a and 4. Both 6a and 4 are being repeatedly added by negative 2a times, right? And that doesn't really make a lot of sense because a is a variable, so we don't know how many times that is, which is why we need to distribute so we can algebraically represent what we're talking about. And so we have that negative 2a being multiplied by 6a plus 4. And so that negative 2a is going to be distributed to the 6a, and it's going to be distributed to the 4. Oop, I wanted to put that in purple. Here you go. Go Rams. So now let's actually do that multiplication. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, I put the parentheses here, but the parentheses do not represent multiplication. The lack of a symbol represents multiplication. That's why writing the negative 2a in parentheses here is the same thing as writing negative 2a without the parentheses. And so that negative 2a is still being multiplied by 6a and 4. We do need to keep the parentheses on our 6a plus 4 because that is being grouped. Parentheses group things together. And if we drop our parentheses, suddenly our negative 2a is not being multiplied by 4 anymore. It's only being multiplied by the 6a. So we need to keep those parentheses there because 6a and 4 are being grouped together, which makes us do our distribution. And so just like before with negative 2a and 6a, when we multiplied by our 5x and negative 3x, we're just multiplying our variables and multiplying our numbers. And so negative 2 times 6, those coefficients multiply to be negative 12, and a times a is a squared. Then negative 2 times 4 is going to be negative 8, and then our a is still hanging out. And so we get negative 12a squared minus 8a. Ta-da! There it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at question 3 in the next video. See you there.